The consumer sentiment numbers came in, and they're interesting. Find out on this edition of the Video Market Update. So the University of Michigan does a consumer sentiment index. Essentially what it is how are people feeling about the economy? And then they register it against other years and other periods. And you can see on this chart, this goes back a handful of years to see where consumer sentiment is. If you see where we are right now, you will notice that we are lower today than in the Great Recession and in COVID. So what is consumer sentiment? Consumer sentiment is how people feel about the economy. It's important to note, this isn't necessarily based on data, this is based on feelings. Now, I would have to ask you, having lived through the Great Recession of 2008, when we were in double-digit unemployment, when it felt like the world economy and the US economy were, sinking into the depths of something that was on the brink of Great Depression era, do you feel like that was better then than it is now? At the beginning of COVID, when we had a global pandemic in which at the beginning no one knew what was happening, and we didn't know if we were ever going to leave our house again or ever be able to buy bottled water or toilet paper, was that worse than how you feel now? I think what's interesting is, have we forgotten what those feelings were? But we don't have to. We can look at the data. We can look at skyrocketing unemployment. We can look at uncertainty. We can look at supply chain issues. If we look at where the economy is today, as we sit here in April, it certainly hasn't been going that well up to this point. But look at unemployment. Unemployment is in the low fours after a pretty good jobs month last month of about 170,000+ jobs. We look at the market and we think, oh, well, the market's done pretty poor this year. In fact, the S&P 500 is essentially flat. It's technically up a little bit less than 1%. And in the last 3 weeks, the S&P 500 is up about 8.5%. Yes, oil is up and gas prices are up, and it's annoying and frustrating, and I don't like it either. But if you look, it's not even the highest gas has been in the last 5 years. We've had periods of time where gas has been more expensive at the pump. So I wonder if it's people's reality that they're living in, or if it's the nervousness and pessimism about the future, less about what we're living in today. Because yes, there is a lot of uncertainty. I think we've been living through inflation for years. It feels like this inflation is just sticking around and won't go away. And I think at some point when people have gone through something like this, there starts to be a little bit of pessimism. And the challenge with that is if we become pessimistic, does that then become not just how we perceive it, but it becomes the reality based on people stop spending, people stop being as productive, all those different things. So I just thought it was interesting. I thought it was interesting to reframe people's negative view of the market relative and the economy relative to where we've been in the last few years, and to think it's probably not as bad as 2008, it's probably not as bad as the depths of COVID. But again, I'm not here to tell people how they should feel. I just think it's interesting that we're starting to see those feelings manifest themselves. So I thought that was interesting, and I wanted to get that in front of you. If you have any questions on this or anything you're seeing in the market, let me know. But if not, as always, I hope you make it a great week.